Friends, elders, comrades, neighbors, I am grateful to the University of Newcastle Students for Palestine for the honor of inviting me to speak and for bringing us together with such courage and care. I had hoped to stand with you in the Civic Park today, 24th of August 2025, but a sudden illness has kept me at home. Like every one of you, I refuse to be silent, so I'm very thankful for being allowed to share my remarks remotely. My heart is with you in the crowd. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Avabakal and Woromai peoples, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded. Justice here and justice in Palestine are bound together. We gather in Muloobinba not just to protest a policy or a prime minister, but to bear witness to truth. What is happening in Gaza is not only a humanitarian catastrophe, but a crisis in our humanity. After nearly 2 years of genocidal war, more than 62,000 Palestinians have been killed, entire neighborhoods flattened, families displaced again and again. The drumbeat of grief grows louder as plans are being put to effect for yet another assault on Gaza City, an operation that has already uprooted tens of thousands more and intensified the genocide to an historically unprecedented level. History is calling us to interrupt this momentum of death. UN agency warn that the worst-case weaponized famine scenario is unfolding. When food, medicine, and shelter cannot reach people in time, when even infants are denied the means to live, we are summoned to a deeper question: what kind of world do we choose to be? Let us speak plainly about the failures of the so-called liberal democratic states, and especially our own. In recent days, Australia announced it will recognize the state of Palestine at the UN next month. This is a step, but recognition without protection is a promissory note come due at the gates of starvation. While Canberra speaks of peace, dozens of Australian defense export permits linked to Israel have been upheld, and credible questions remain about components and systems still flowing through the two-way arms trade. If we can name a state, we must also refuse to arm its oppressor. Around the world, momentum is shifting. So far, a growing number of countries, many of them Australia's friends, have declared the war must end now and condemned the strangling of aid. The chorus is growing, the pressure is real, but a chorus without action is only a song. If governments will not move at the speed of conscience, people must. Let's tell the truth. You cannot bomb a people into safety or starve them into peace. Call it what it is: a siege on life. We are here to end it and to end our government's complicity. So what do we demand today? First, put all the possible diplomatic and non-diplomatic pressures on Israel to stop the invasion of Gaza City, end the occupation immediately, and let the food in. Gaza should be flooded with unrestricted humanitarian aid, food, water, medicine, shelter, fuel by land and sea at the scale the UN agencies say is required. No more rationing of life through checkpoints and spreadsheets. Lift the siege, restore the means of life. Second, support an immediate, durable ceasefire with monitored aid corridors and the exchange that brings hostages home and Palestinian detainees back to their families. Third, end the two-way arms trade between Australia and Israel. No loopholes, no quiet permits, no components by proxy. Fourth, we demand sanctions for accountability. Targeted government-wide sanctions against officials and entities implicated in starvation, genocidal collective punishments, and unlawful settlement expansion in line with the international law and the rulings of global justice mechanisms. Words that condemn without consequences are words that wither. Fifth, rebuild what was broken without re-entrenching what broke it. Back a reconstruction grounded in community control, transparent aid, and a politics that values life over profit, schools before stockpiles, clinics before contracts. Let Australia invest in life-centered rebuilding, not in the industries that turned homes into rubble. Sixth, to our local communities, let's act right here in Newcastle. Call on our council, our unions, our university, and our companies and the Air Force to divest from enterprises and initiatives complicit to the crime against humanity and cut ties with weapons firms that are profiting from it and from the similar ones across the world. Expand local sanctuary and support for the refugee families, visas, housing, trauma care, scholarships, so that care is not a slogan but a structure. Some will say these demands are radical. We say there are minimum required to be human in a time such as this. Because the measure of a decent society is not its GDP or its share price or military spending. It is whether life can breathe, eat, learn, love, and flourish. Not just for some, but for all. This is the ethic that binds us. An economy of care, a politics of participation, a culture of solidarity, and a world well living. And let us speak for a moment to those in power. Recognition means responsibility. If Australia can recognize Palestine in New York, it can and must protect Palestinian lives. If Australia can cancel a visa in the name of public order, it can also cancel the permits that export death in the name of the so-called national interest. If Australia can speak of a two-state future, it can act in the present to help stop the starvation of a people. The arc of justice does not bend by poetry alone. It bends when governments fill the pool of organized people. Let me add a few words here to address something broader and deeper, yet fundamentally relevant to our cause. Even as we face this emergency, we must keep sight of the largest truth it exposes. Do not let the urgency of Gaza blur the architecture that produced it. The crisis is not a distraction from the whole, it is a window into it. Today, as always, we affirm our support for the undeniable rights of Palestinians to live in peace on their own land, a homeland for Muslims, Jews, Christians, or other groups of different identity who have historically coexisted there. We understand that this can never happen in the context of an apartheid settler colonialist regime that is built based on ethno-religious supremacy from within and functions as the strongest military base from without, as the core implementation of Western imperialist plans in the region. It has become clear to many that lasting peace in the region cannot be achieved without dismantling the systems of apartheid and occupation, much like what was necessary in the case of South Africa 3 decades ago. True power resides with the people, and once again we are seeing a global surge of voices taking decisive steps to tackle this crisis at its roots. Today, the Arabic or Palestinian word Nakba transcends its noun form and historical past. It has become a verb that defines an ongoing process extending beyond Palestine's borders. Nakbatization, I argue, represents a continuing catastrophe that is impacting all facets of human civilization. Genocide and ecocides are two sides of the same coin, that is the capitalist machinery that relentlessly destroys life. the supremacy of capital funds and fuels ethnocentric supremacy. To negate the latter, we must also confront the former. What lies behind the horrific headlines today is not simply a matter of aid trucks and ceasefire texts. This is a reckoning with how we assess worth. If bread is barred and babies starve, the question before us is simple. Will we count security by walls and weapons, or by whether life can live? Will we continue to count security by how efficiently we can cage people, or will we dare to count it by whether life can flourish? Will we continue to budget for bombs before bread, or will we choose together a politics that places the sanctity of life at the center? For life, my friends, is our greatest shared commons, human and more than human, and any system that starves life to feed power is a system we must turn upside down. With 3 decades of experience in social movement studies, I offer my humble view. This moment is historically significant. It presents a unique opportunity to forge new networks and pathways for more emancipatory action. Moreover, it gives our younger generation not just the chance to participate, but also to lead and institutionalize their cause. Advocating for the rights of Palestinians to exist freely, to claim sovereignty in their chosen form, and to bring to justice those guilty of war crimes and genocide is intrinsically linked to our broader quest for freedom. This fight extends beyond geographical boundaries. It confronts a global system entrenched in colonial practices that exploit both people and the planet. We Are All Gazans transcends mere solidarity. It unveils the harsh truth of a world where the ruling elite in capital reduce everything of true value to commodities for their exploitation, appropriation, and extraction. It is a call to recognize our shared vulnerability under these oppressive structures, but also to unite us on our cause for transforming the cruel capitalist system domestically and internationally. The movement we are involving in to end the crisis and liberate Palestine can also serve as a blueprint for emancipating our own societies in the West. More important and necessary than recognizing Palestine as a nation-state is to recognize Palestine as a liberation path. Using the Abrahamic mythological language, Palestine is today's burning bush, blazed for nearly a century, yet miraculously never consumed. The burning bush is speaking to us, giving us the mission to challenge modern-day pharaohs. And when the historians ask what we did when bread was barred and babies were wasted by hunger, when bombs fell where books should have opened, let them say Newcastle chose to revitalize the spirit of Muloobinba by choosing life. Let them say on a winter afternoon in 2025, we lifted our eyes from the price of things to the value of life, and we would not stand down. May courage be contagious. May compassion be organized, and may our steps today make a road where the living can finally live. Thank you.